Hello friends. We've been working on a new project that we are very excited about. We're calling it Study With Me. And the first offering in this Study With Me series is going to be a study guide on the Gospel of Luke. I'm very excited about it. It's a study guide that will be made for individual or group study. And I will be encouraging people to study the Gospel of Luke with me. At any rate, because of this project, I've been spending some time revisiting the Gospel of Luke, and I want to share a few thoughts with you in this short video on some ideas that I've had recently. In this video, I want to talk about Zechariah and Mary, and in particular, their faith. Now, we meet Zechariah in Luke chapter 1, and as you may know, Zechariah and Elizabeth are told that they are going to have a baby, John, by the angel Gabriel. That is, the angel Gabriel announces that to Zechariah. Now, the text tells us that Zechariah is a priest, that he is righteous before God, and that he is blameless in his keeping of the commandments of the Lord, and that he and Elizabeth have been praying for a son. Well, they've been praying for a child, I believe the text actually says. And the angel Gabriel comes to Zechariah and tells him that he's going to have a son. His prayers have been answered. And how does Zechariah respond? Well, if you know the story, you know that Zechariah asks for a sign as proof that what the angel has said will come true. As if the appearance of the angel itself was not a sign enough. Well, the angel says to Zechariah, "Because you did not believe my words, you will become mute and unable to speak until the day that your son is born." Now, this is interesting to me because Zechariah is a priest, a righteous man, a blameless person, someone who's been praying for a son. But when he hears news that he's going to have a son, he doesn't believe it. He has his doubts. Now, I'm not going to blame him for having doubts because the text also tells us that he and Elizabeth were getting up in years, sort of like Abraham and Sarai in the Old Testament. So I'm sure it was unexpected and a shock to him to hear that he was going to have a son in his old age. So I'm not going to blame him or fault him for not believing what the angel Gabriel said to him. I want to talk briefly about doubt, though. Here's Zechariah, who is a good man, who is an exemplary man, and yet he has his doubts. Now, in chapter 2, we meet a young girl named Mary. And the same angel Gabriel comes to her and says, she's the favored one. She will bring the Lord's anointed into the world. If she did not believe what the angel told her, the text does not tell us that. Rather, it tells us that she was willing to accept that role, and it appears that she believed what the angel said to her. In fact, when she visits Elizabeth, a little bit later on in chapter 2, Elizabeth praises her because she did believe what the angel Gabriel had told her. I'm wondering if in Elizabeth's mind she remembered that her husband did not at first believe what that same angel told to him. At any rate, you've got an older man who has been faithful to the Lord for a long time and who serves the Lord full time as a priest, who doubts that he will have a son. And then you have this young girl who, upon hearing that she's going to bring the Savior of the world into the world, she believes it. I think that contrast is very interesting. Now, there are just a couple of points I want to make from that observation. And the first one is this. Even though Zechariah had his doubts, I don't think we should fault him for those doubts. And to carry that application farther, I think we should say this. We shouldn't be too harsh on ourselves if we have doubts. Now, there's a difference between the person who just will not consider faith at any price and the person who wants to believe but has honest doubts. And that person who is willing to make honest inquiry and examination into those doubts. What I want to say here is that there's nothing wrong with having doubts. And having doubts does not mean that we don't have faith. I don't think we should equate the lack of faith with doubt. I know that may sound strange, but I don't think we should make that equation. You know, there's nothing wrong with us if we have doubts and we're trying our best to find the solution and the answers to those questions that we have. Nothing wrong with that. In fact, there might be something wrong with us if we're not willing to examine the evidence and consider our doubts and bring them into the light of day and consider them. I think there might have been something wrong with Zechariah if he had been so quick to accept the angel's word. But that's just me. So, my suggestion here is if you have doubt, bring it into the light of day. Talk to someone that you trust, who has faith, and help them, allow them to help you work through those doubts together. And you know, your faith can actually grow in the presence of doubt if that doubt is examined and studied out. Now, the second thing I want to say is in reference to that little girl named Mary, that young adult, maybe an adolescent for all we know. But she was a person of strong faith. And of course we want to imitate her in that regard, don't we? But what I want you to see here is the contrast between this older man, a priest, who'd been praying for her son, and this young girl who had no idea the plans that God had in mind for her. And what I want to say here is, if you are young, let no one despise your youth. Let no one look down on you because you are young. Your faith can be as great and as strong as anyone's, even those who serve the Lord full time like Zechariah did, even those who are advanced in age. Your faith can be strong. Yes, it can. Well, just a few thoughts from my revisitation of Luke chapters 1 and 2. I hope you find them encouraging to your faith and to your spiritual growth, because that is what we are all about, right? Okay, God bless.